What is up, everybody? Welcome here to Pop Culture Philosophers. In particular, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers Movie Night. We shorten that to PCP Movie Night. I am your host, Rockin, Robbie Bills, and tonight we're doing our very first ever Quentin Tarantino look in retrospective here on PCP Movie Night. And I didn't want to start with anything that we all knew, the Golden Childs. If you're the Golden Children, Childs is not a word unless your last name is Childs, but then that's a whole other thing. Anyway, tonight we're talking about Jackie Brown. I wanted to talk about one of his most underappreciated movies, and let's see if we can elevate that for some people in the modern cinema. And we cannot have elevated cinema without Brooks. What is up, my man?
What's up? Didn't I do it, baby? Didn't I do it, baby?
Hell yeah. Also, to round out that that trio, we got Verno. What is up, my man?
What up, fellas? What up? Stoked to be here. This is out of all the movie reviews I've done, this is maybe like the best month. It's like the best movie I've ever had a chance to review. So stoked to be here, man.
Damn, that's some high praise. Speaking of high praise, he doesn't have much praise, but he is high. It's Jelani. What is up, my man?
Facts. Station. Good to be here. Great movie to pick for Black History Month, especially. I really appreciate that. On top of it being a Tarantino movie, I also appreciate that.
Yeah, I planned that just for you, Jelani. No, it's a great movie to talk about. And I want to point out to everybody that Joe Corallo showed up early today. So that's
it's
awesome.
True. Well, you brought me back for another De Niro picture. So
that's true. Like in one of his best roles, in my opinion.
Really good.
Right? And speaking of Robert De Niro, this is the Robert De Niro PCP. It's Fable, everybody. What is up?
What's going on, guys?
I know your voice sounds a little rough. Feels like you're a little under the weather, but you sound more like Robert De Niro than ever right now. I'll tell you that, bro. So that's a bonus. That's a bonus. All right, let's talk about this. Jackie Brown, this film right here. Our good buddy Eric Easy Dick the Stash Durrance sent this to me, and I always associate this movie with him because he sent it to me, and it was one of the only Tarantino movies I didn't have on Blu-ray. As we speak, I still just don't have Kill Bill 1 and 2. For some reason, I don't have those ones. They're the only ones I'm missing. I don't know. I don't have them. Like I was always waiting. You know what happened? I was always waiting for like the deluxe edition that would be 1 and 2 together in a big thing, and then it came and went real quick on DVD and got really expensive. So I never bought it. But anyway, Eric,
I've got it.
Easy Dick out there. Thank you so much for sending me Jackie Brown. And so when you send me a movie, I will put it on the schedule. And Eric had to wait like a year and a half for us to talk about it. But here it is. We're talking about Jackie Brown. And I intentionally this year, we're going through all these directors, right? We talked about Guy Ritchie last week. We talked about Terry Gilliam recently. We've talked about John Carpenter, Martin Scorsese, right? I wanted to do a Tarantino movie proper. Now, we did a Tarantino podcast in which, of the time, we talk about all of his films. I highly encourage you to check that out. It's on our website. It's also on the YouTube channel, Tarantino Pop Culture Philosophers Podcast. But even in that show, we talked about this being an underappreciated movie. When everybody does their like favorite Tarantino movies, all this stuff, the only people that say this are ultra hipsters, right? And I'm not saying this because I'm a hipster. I'm saying this because this movie rocks. But another reason why we like to say this is this movie did not do well when it first came out. And it wasn't necessarily well received. It opened up 5th in the box office, right behind Titanic, As Good as It Gets, Mouse Hunt. Do you remember that stupid Mouse Hunt movie?
Nathan Lane, yeah.
I saw Mouse Hunt. Yeah.
Well, that was your fault then, Joe. You should have watched Jackie Brown. But I'm going to tell you this. I really like this film. Now, when I first watched it, and it was a recent release when I first got into Tarantino. Like I went back and I watched Reservoir Dogs on Hammer Time Whole Shoes recommendation. I remember the day I went out and bought that VHS copy of Reservoir Dogs on my buddy Whole Shoes recommendation. Then we watched Pulp Fiction. And then this was newer at the time on the video store. I didn't see it in theaters. It wasn't there for too long, but we rented it. And I remember being like, oh, this isn't as good as the other two. Right. And that was a lot of people's response to it because people are expecting a non-linear form of storytelling. They're expecting Pulp Fiction Part 2. They're expecting something that Quentin Tarantino did not deliver. But what he did deliver, and this is something I started appreciating on my second and third watches, which were very late 90s, early 2000s, man, this is a really great adaptation of an Elmore Leonard novel, right? So I like Elmore Leonard a lot, right? Out of Sight might be my favorite novel of his that I've read, and I haven't read them all. He's very prolific. He's got a lot of stuff, a lot of it taking place within the same universe, right? And so this is based on the Elmore Leonard novel Rum Punch. But at this time, if y'all remember, there were a lot of movies in the mid to late 90s that were based on Leonard novels. We had Get Shorty, we had Jackie Brown, we had Get Shorty, we had like everybody was trying to do it. Then they did Be Cool. Like it was just like everybody's trying to do an Elmore Leonard novel. And now here we are over 20 years later, and I will say this is the best adaptation of an Elmore Leonard novel that I have personally seen on screen that I have read the book for. Absolutely love it. There are a few changes made. Pam Grier was the inspiration basically for Quentin when he was writing the script. He saw Pam as that character in the book. She's a white woman, but she's a black woman in the movie. He changes the name of the character Jackie Brown, so it's a reference to Bobby Brown. We all know that Quentin Tarantino loves him some blaxploitation films from the 70s. This is a love letter to it. It's got that tone, but as he's repeatedly said, it's not a blaxploitation movie. It is a crime fiction movie straight in the vein of Quentin Tarantino. I think it's one of his most undervalued and underappreciated films. When I think of my favorite Tarantino films, they always shift and change every time I rewatch them, but I love every single one of them, including this one. Brooks, what's your history with it? What'd you think about it? Jackie Brown, go.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing this. Like, I've always liked this movie. Like, it's one of the few movies I actually have a copy of in my library. I have on DVD. It has a slipcase and everything. Like, has the bullet hole, and you can see there's like a picture of. Pretty nice. So yeah, this is actually one I didn't have to stress about having to find because it was there. And yeah, like watching it again, I loved it just as much. It is a very fun movie, and it's very Tarantino. It's like Tarantino's first three movies, kind of like they do this good balancing act of having like this weird, kind of crazy, fucked up, super violent shit, and like this kind of like this comedic undertone to it at the same time. That like it's just unique to his style, I think. And this movie it was really good. Like I really liked the performances, everything about it. It just made me happy to watch.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. What about you, Verno? You'd seen this one before, surely, right?
Oh yeah. I kind of the same with you. I feel like a lot of people. This is the one he did right after Pulp Fiction, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't love it
because we don't count 4 rooms.
Right. Yeah. Even though that's pretty dope. From what I remember when I was a kid, I fucking loved it then.
It's not, but we don't count that either way, so it's fine.
I didn't love this when I was a kid. I think it's because it's exactly what you said. It's not as exciting as Pulp Fiction. It's not as exciting as Reservoir Dogs, and it's not as violent. It's a lot more. This is like Tarantino restrained. Even the dialogue is a little restrained. Everything's a little bit more chill. But I love it. This is the one out of all of them that I can throw on any day because it's just kind of like what we talked about when we were talking John Carpenter. These movies are so easy just to put on. They're so chill. This is the most relaxing Tarantino movie you could watch. And it's not I don't know. There's just something about it that I love. It's got the best soundtrack out of anything he's done. Steph said something last week about Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. About you could make a movie about any one of the characters in that movie. And I'd say that you double that for this one. And it's even got like the star power to carry a movie. I'd watch a film based on any of these people. But yeah, it's a great one, dude. I love this flick. I watch it probably every handful of years, every few years.
Yeah, it's so great. Now, at the time, it really messed people up because it had like a linear story, basically, where you're going along with it. But I mean, I like it, and I like that you said this is a chill hangout kind of movie. Because Quentin says one of his favorite things about novels, in particular Leonard's novels, is that you feel like you're hanging out with the characters. And he wanted that to come across in this movie. So he's like very much intentionally saying the first hour is just hanging out, getting to know the characters. How many scenes in this movie are just people chilling out, watching TV, having a drink, bullshitting, talking? You do get to know every single one of these characters. And then when the plot really starts to ramp up, and it never loses that narrative thread from the beginning all the way through. And it's such a subtle, very well-paced way to get to know these characters. And I've heard a lot of people describe it as, and I think even Quentin has said, this is his hangout movie. This is the movie about people hanging out. Speaking of hanging out, Jelani was hanging out one day and I was like, dude, you got to zip that up because people are getting scared. They're calling the police. So Jelani, why don't you tell us, what do you think about Jackie Brown?
Yeah, toys do that to you sometimes. Yeah, man. I worked at the movie theater when this came out. This was 95. So I was I was brand new.
97, Christmas 97.
97. Then never mind. I graduated from high school. I take that back. I graduated from high school from that year. It was awesome. Pam Grier is an icon. She is gorgeous. She is one of those people that has one of those personalities that you follow anyway. And for him to, like, first of all, put her in the forefront of this movie, like that's who he saw, I was like, yep, you did a great job. He did that back then, and I really appreciated that. So I've seen this movie like tons of times. I had it on VHS. I still have it on VHS. It's in a box somewhere, but I've watched it numerous times in different forms with different people, and everybody has pretty much the same kind of thing about this movie. It's so it's one of the funnest musically. It's paced well. It's one of those films that, like, just you're just in for the ride. You just chill with it, like you said before. This is one of those films that you just lean back and go with it. Pulp Fiction is still my favorite of all of them. Then it goes like to Kill Bills, and then this movie, and it goes that far. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's there. Hateful Eight's my least favorite so far.
We were having that discussion at the shop this week, right? We were talking, and we were like, honestly, it might be Hateful Eight might be his worst movie, but like that doesn't mean it's not a good movie.
It's not a good. I mean, it's all right, and it has that non-linear storytelling. And plus, Jackie Brown does break up. It shows the three perspectives of the heist that they do in the dressing room. So it kind of breaks up. You kind of see something like that. Tarantino does tell an excellent story. And linearly or non-linearly, it's still a fantastic watch. This movie is just better because, well, hell, Samuel L. Jackson's in it, Bridget Fonda's in it, Robert De Niro's in it. It's so many different characters, so many different personalities, and this seems like this would have happened like in real life. Like something like this probably happens all the time, probably crazier. So it's one of these films that you can forget about it sometimes, but when you hear it again, you're like, Jackie Brown, oh hell yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah,
it's one of those things, man. It just brings you out like that.
Absolutely. What about you, Joe? What do you think about this film?
Well, to quote Roger Ebert on this movie, it's too good to be in a hurry. So it's exactly that, like everyone was leading up to before this, where it's like it takes its time building things up, building up those character relationships. I think part of why it wasn't received as well when it came out is I remember like the commercials and the ad campaign around it really made it seem like it jumps right into the like heist aspect of the movie, which doesn't happen till like
it does,
so far into it. Like, it's like you're like an hour 45 in this movie before you're really, in the thick of the main heist of it, and the idea of like, what would you be willing to do to like, what would you risk to steal that amount of money? But the ad campaign really made it seem like that was a question that you are presented with immediately, and then everything happened. So I think the ad campaign also worked against it in those regards. But it's great. It's probably the most accessible Tarantino movie. Like, I could show this to my grandpa, and it's not too over the top, stylized, crazy like some of his other films.
Yeah.
That I love stylized films, but I know there's a lot of people that go like, no, I just want over the shoulder, flat shots. Anything else is scary.
Yeah. So I do the show every Monday before we do this show with Dynamite, right? And Rex from Dynamite, director of sales and branding, when he found out what I was doing, he goes, Quentin Tarantino is a decent enough director, but he needs an editor because none of his movies make sense. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? First of all, I'm like, what are you talking about? And second of all, Jackie Brown's the easiest to understand of all of his films. So accessible. That's exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I've said enough now. Let's go to Fable.
All right, Fable, at Joe's direction, let's go to you. What do you think about this film?
This movie's fantastic. It's a bona fide classic. I would say it's top 3 Tarantino. You pick and choose which ones you want to put in there. I'm with you guys with the reception on this movie. I saw this in the movies. I definitely agree with Joe when he says the marketing was off, because I felt like this was going to be Pulp Fiction Part 2. And it ultimately wasn't. It was way slower. Also, Chris Tucker was heavily advertised, and Chris Tucker was really hot at that point. And for him to die within the first 20 minutes of the movie totally soured me on this movie when I was a kid, when I was younger. But upon subsequent rewatches, this is the most grounded, this is the most mature of all his films. It's the least Tarantinoistic in a lot of ways, even when it comes to dialogue. There's movies that he wrote that he didn't direct that have more Tarantino dialogue than this movie has. And I love it for it. Powerhouse performances from top to bottom. I'm surprised Samuel L. Jackson did not get an Oscar nom for this one. I know people love him in Pulp Fiction, but shit, what a performance in this movie from
his character gets all the Tarantino dialogue just about, really.
Yeah,
it does. Even
from beginning to
car.
End. For him being,
and all that stuff.
For him being always trying to be the smartest cat in the room, you know what I mean? To getting the drop on, his response to getting the drop on, just all of that. His performance is fantastic, along with the guys who play Cherry, the guys who played the cops, Michael Keaton. I mean, amazing. So, love this movie. I would dare say at any given day it would be the #1 Tarantino movie.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I love that you mentioned the performances because there's some great ones. And fucking Beaumont, man. I mean, that's just what you got to do sometimes, right? The only Academy Award nomination that this was given, and it was expected to get a lot by Miramax in particular, right? But the only one was Robert Forster as Best Supporting Actor, and he lost to Robin Williams for Good Will Hunting.
Okay.
It's a shame because there was so much love. And then I think another thing that's actually a part of the discourse at the time around this movie is that a lot, like Quentin rubbed a lot of people like in the Hollywood establishment at that time the wrong way. He was very he came across as very arrogant, right? But to me, I look at it now and it's a dude who's enthused by movies, who's talking about movies, who thinks that who rightly thinks that at the time Hollywood wasn't making the kind of movies that he grew up on, that he wanted to see, and the movies that most people wanted to see. And now he's the fucking powerhouse, right? But back in those days, a lot of people still thought this snot-nosed punk kid, you had luck at Sundance with Reservoir Dogs, you had luck at Cannes with Pulp Fiction, this is our chance to tear you the fuck down. It was also mismarketed as a Christmas film. You watch that fucking trailer, it's ridiculous. I get it, it came out on Christmas, but that also shows you this was meant to be their Academy Award movie that year, right? And Good Will Hunting kind of actually took them by surprise. So Ben Affleck may be an Academy Award winner because of people's disdain towards Quentin Tarantino at the time, maybe. But it's got a great cast. Like you said, Fable, from top to bottom, there is not a performance wasted in this movie. I am going to hold my favorite. I have a favorite, but I'm going to see if it can get back around to me.
Dude.
I don't think it will.
Dude, even Tiny Lester, but somebody
I
might
know.
take him. So
The tiniest little bit too. Like he only shows up in that one picture, and then at the end of the movie, he's like, "You need me to help you?" All right, and then it just is so cool. All right, so Brooks, out of a slam bang fantastic cast, who's someone you want to highlight?
Max Cherry is my number one in this movie, dude. I love
Oh yeah.
Robert
Yeah.
Forster's Max Cherry, dude. He's because he never misses a beat, dude. He's like nowadays, like when I watch him, I see Abed from Community as a bail bondsman. It's like he's just so on point. Like he knows what he's doing, and he just says like I love the scene when he's talking to Odell, and he brings up the picture, and he's like he's trying to bait him, and he just he just completely ignores him. Like Max Cherry is just a fun character because he's so deadpan, but like there's like an earnestness to him as well, and you see how he's getting feelings for this person, and he just doesn't understand them, and he's just trying to cope. But at the same time, he's still he's always got that Max Cherry cool. He's in control,
He's been there. He's done it.
Yeah.
You get this sense like nothing's new to him. He's seen this behavior. He's seen
I love
people
this,
like Ordell
when he's
before.
telling her about, I went to this dude's house. I had the stun gun, and it's just it's just so funny. I remember I don't know, I must be misremembered, but I remember there being an actual scene where he used the stun gun on the dude, and he didn't actually. He just mentioned it.
That was another reality, Brooks, the Mandela effect. Speaking of the Mandela effect,
flipped over.
Verno still thinks Nelson Mandela was killed in prison in 1991 or whatever. So, Verno, what about you? What's a performance you want to highlight?
Well, wait a minute now. Dude, Max Cherry is the man. I absolutely love him. Like when I think of this movie, I think of Max Cherry. He's just one of my favorite characters. His performance is awesome. But everybody's great, man. I'll go De Niro just because that's one of the things that really struck me the first time I saw this movie. As soon as you see Robert De Niro smoking a bowl, and not even a glass pipe, some fucking metal bowl that tastes like shit, probably has a screen in out of someone's kitchen sink. But just to see him in this role it was so cool at the time, and just how uncomfortable he is. Like he's this, he's not this stereotypical criminal. He's just so uncomfortable, probably with being on the outside for the first time in a while. I wonder if this is what he was like before he went in. But just his awkwardness, his uncomfortableness, and just how badass, or the moment when he kills Melanie later on, you see that raw criminal that he is, it's almost like you see him for the first time in the whole movie in that moment. But he's the best. And the other thing is he takes roles like this, and that's what I love about him. For as big as a name as he is, there's so many of his best movies, he's the second, third, fourth guy in the film, and I love that he'll take those roles. So yeah, Robert De Niro, dude, he crushed it.
Yeah, studio wanted him for a Max Cherry, right? Big name, right age, all this kind of stuff. Quentin says that Robert De Niro was the best actor he's ever worked with, at least up to that point. And he said that it blew him away because Robert De Niro cared so much about character, and everything about this character is not through dialogue, which is an exception, especially not just at this time, but actually throughout all of his career. Most of his characters are driven by the dialogue that they speak, not Lewis in this movie.
Did he ever work with him again? He didn't, right? He never worked with Tarantino?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think it ever happened again. Yeah. And then he said, I remember him, he said that he told Robert De Niro, Lewis, I want him to feel like a pile of dirty laundry. Like it's just somebody who 5 years in prison just took it all out because he missed the best years of his life while he was in prison. And he comes back and he's not really quite there. And I can't even think of another Robert De Niro performance quite like this. But one thing is, I don't remember what year Raging Bull came out, but it came out the same year as Alligator, and Quentin Tarantino was on record saying that
81.
Okay, so Quentin Tarantino's on record saying that Robert Forster's performance in Alligator is better than Robert De Niro's performance in Raging Bull, so maybe that's why Robert De Niro never did another Tarantino movie. What about you, Jelani? What do you think? What's a performance you want to highlight?
Well, I mean, I was gonna say Max Cherry too, but that's cool, man. He's awesome. Robert Forster made this role. Like, I love how he goes right back to his job, knowing he could full well he could leave. Like he knew, he made up his mind that he was gonna be with Jackie. Like he was gonna quit and be with Jackie, but then he sees like this situation, like what it is, and he was just like, no, I think I want that simple life, that simple, easy, flowing, just life. And you're right, Brooks, he was on point. He's really cool. But since you took him, and I understand, I'm gonna go with Samuel L. Jackson, because dadgummit, man, Odell is like,
You took mine, bro. That's it.
I know.
You
I
thought
know,
that was
sorry.
gonna get around to you?
He clean,
No
son.
fucking way,
There's a
dude.
lot of great performances in this
If I
movie.
can't
man.
do Max
Yeah.
Cherry, then I'm gonna take Samuel L. Jackson. He was too awesome in this film, not to be ignored. He's so cool, calm, and collected. He made sense when he talked, but he messed up a lot. Like, if he knew Beaumont was gonna talk, you don't go to the same bail bondsman twice just to save a few dollars. You know what I'm saying? It's his approach, his whole approach of what he was trying to do. What you do is you get Lewis to go and bond him out with the $10,000. Don't go in flashy, but he wants to show people who he is. He doesn't need to do that. He could have been muted, but he's Samuel L. Jackson. It's impossible. So Odell's character is a straight, just wannabe gangster dude who plays it so smooth. He thinks he's just on hot shit because he's got his whole base is messed up. He's got Simone, who's like always that stole his money. You've also got Melanie on the other side who's constantly undermining him, constantly doing stuff, and she was gonna take money too. So it was, he had a bad foundation. And Lewis, who went to prison with, who, I'm sorry, Lewis couldn't keep it together during a situation. That was true Lewis. Like, yeah, you couldn't just hit her. You just drag her back to the car. You got to shoot her.
All you gotta do is punch her in the mouth one time. I told you that.
I love how quickly Samuel L. Jackson just accepts it. Okay, fine. You had to kill her. Let's move on.
Yeah, it's fine. And it's great.
It bothered him though, because even when he shows up to Max Cherry later on, it's still on his brain. He's like, she was my little surfer chick. Man. You didn't have to do that. Man. You just punch her in the mouth.
That's it. That's what you got to do.
By the way, we here at PCP do not condone any kind of domestic violence whatsoever.
Not at all. Not at all. But I mean, sometimes you got to get to some heights and you got to shake some people in the shoulders. Be like, shut up. We're right. But
I love how once they have sex and that tension's gone, they just both annoy the fuck out of each other.
Yeah, they can't stand each other.
Like De Niro's character just like a switch flips, and all of a sudden he's like full asshole mode.
Yeah,
like
same with her. Same with her though, kind of.
Yeah.
She's like, I got you
into it a little bit more.
Yeah, I got you now, and she's like, now that I got you, it's over. But that's how cool these characters are. We can talk about any one of them, any interchangeable bit of them, and it wouldn't matter. But Samuel L. Jackson was, to me, past Max Cherry, which, man, god dang it, he's awesome. But it's such a great character out of Samuel L. Jackson. This is probably one of his best performances. That's really overlooked. It's very, very underrated.
I agree, because he's actually also very threatening and menacing and intimidating, even with that hair.
Yep.
Yeah. The hair threw me off at first, for sure.
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson's like Nick Cage. He's always like, I'll do your movie, but give me weird ass hair.
Yeah.
That's what he just start thinking about
He's got the little chin goatee.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Speaking of little chin, the little braided chin goatee, Joe Corallo used to rock that, but he cut it off. So Joe, what's the performance you want to highlight?
I gotta give props to Max Cherry as well. Fucking love it. But I'm gonna go with Mark Dargis. What a fucking cop, man. Everything he did in that movie, you're like, this is a cop. I know this guy. Just like Max Cherry, what makes him so real is like, I think we all know like people like that. These like, gruff, world weary, kind of guys. And Dargis is just such a like, we all have encountered a dozen fucking Dargises before, like to a T, just everything. The
One gave me a
grin.
ticket.
Yeah. But just that whole like, that just like coming in and kind of being like, look, I'm not telling you we got nothing, but we got nothing. And I'm just gonna bullshit my way through this until you give me everything I want. Like this, he plays it so well. It's just he just completely embodies that performance, just like Max Cherry. That's a completely embodied performance. At no point do you see him as an actor or anything other than this dipshit cop that we all know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's Buck.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he is Buck, isn't he? What about you, Fable? What's the performance you want to highlight?
Oh yeah, another shout out for Max Cherry. One of my favorite scenes is when he sees Jackie Brown coming out of jail. He's looking at her, and what Brooke said, where he's having these feelings that he doesn't understand, it totally emotes it through that one scene right there. Totally. So yeah, shout out to him. I was gonna pick Keaton, the second cop, because his scene where she's like telling him, "Hey, you don't ever want to take one for yourself." His response was so chilling. Michael Keaton was totally playing somebody that he never really kind of played before this one. So I love that. But I'm gonna go with Pam Grier. Pam Grier, because Pam Grier.
Wait a second, motherfucker! Right, like, all right, we're about to get to the last one, me, and you're gonna take Michael Keaton and Pam Grier. All right. Well, I will just say this: Michael Keaton plays the same character the next year in Out of Sight, which is a really cool kind of vibe too. So go ahead, bro. Don't worry, I got you.
I'm gonna go with Pam Grier.
Up, though, Fable. You're lucky you're feeling under the weather, man.
Oh man. She was very rusty, I would assume, before this role. And she came in and knocked it out of the park. As trepidatious as I was about her acting ability, as trepidatious as I was about her character in this film, and she totally turned me around on both things. Not only did she still have it, but she was the smartest kid in the room. Hands down. She had everybody in her pocket. Pam Grier. Absolutely.
My favorite scene with her in a movie filled with some of the best scenes of her career, her illustrious career, right? Is when Ordell shows up to kill her and she turns the tables and they have that interaction and he's just like, "God damn, woman, you know I'm just playing with you." And she's like,
"Don't put it up my shit."
Yep.
That shit cracks me up. Eric wants to shout out Sid Haig, who's playing the judge, right? Setting the trial date for Jackie.
Somebody picked up Max Cherry.
Yeah, Sid Haig, of course, was oftentimes the white antagonist in a lot of blaxploitation films back in the 70s, including ones starring Pam Grier. So they never told her that he was cast. So when she shows up on set, she sees him and just fucking laughs because she gets the gag, right? All right, here's one I'll go then. Slim pickings, but not really, because this movie's filled with great performances. I could talk about Bridget Fonda. She does the role perfectly, right? Yeah. She's exactly what she needs to be. That's Quentin Tarantino's feet in this movie, right? Like he's got to have that, right? But even though some of the marketing may have made you feel like he was in the movie more so, the amount of time Chris Tucker is in this movie is perfect because it is cracking me up the entire time. He's like, I mean, you catch someone off guard with this shit, bro. Like, I ain't getting in this dirty ass fucking truck. Like, that is such a great fucking scene. And it really sets a menacing tone for Ordell that sets up that character that even though, like you were saying, Brooks, like he's not necessarily, and like what you were saying too, Jelani, I believe, like he's not necessarily really the gangster that he thinks he is. Right. But that don't mean he ain't menacing. You know, and he's got that great scene when he puts it all together that Jackie fucked him. And then he kills, and then he gets emotional, and that's when he kills Lewis. He doesn't kill Lewis at first when he finds out what's going on. It's when he finds out that Jackie just fucked him, and now he's emotional, and then he kills him. Like I like this is one of my favorite Samuel L. Jackson performances.
Yep.
Style and structure. This movie got heavily criticized for being too long. I don't think it's too long. We talk about that all the time here on this channel. It's not the length, it's the pace. This is an excellently paced Quentin Tarantino film. I know that everybody loves Pulp Fiction. So do I. That movie has a point in which it drags for me. Every time I watch that, and it's that long-ass one-take conversation with Bruce Willis in the cab, it starts dulling me out just a little. Starts dulling me out just a little. Jackie Brown never stops. In fact, when the movie's over, I wish I could live with these characters longer. I wish Quentin Tarantino would have done this in 2010 as a 12 episodes Netflix series or something like that. Like, I want to invest in these characters. I love the amount of time that we're spent with these characters. The dialogue, the scene shifts. It's so crazy. The first hour of this movie is just people hanging out, getting high and drinking and talking. Right. But like, you get to know these characters. You get to understand their world, their vibes. That, to me, is the strength of this film, is its pace. That's part of the acting. That's part of the writing. And it's also part of the editing. When Rex said that today, Tarantino needs an editor, I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? You think his movies are too long. Maybe they don't make sense. Maybe they're non-linear. No. All of his movies are exactly as long as they need to be. Maybe Hateful Eight runs a little too long. Maybe the director's cut of Death Proof runs a little too long. I actually like the theatrical cut of that one a little bit better. And Quentin Tarantino, I get it. This is a point in his career where people are like, this young upstart, we have to nip this in the bud, right? They got to get to it before this guy thinks he's Stanley Kubrick. Let's make sure that he knows that he can't just do whatever the fuck he wants. You know what? Maybe he could. Right. And it took a while, a little bit longer between this one and the next film, but the next film was Kill Bill Volume 1. And that was I think in hindsight, it's ridiculous some of the criticism that we get from this movie about pace in a world in which there are comedies that are 2 hours and 40 minutes long that are the most boring, dull ass things out there. If a movie is paced right, it doesn't matter the length. The length needs to be what it needs to be. This movie is damn pitch perfect and has that Quentin Tarantino style, 100%, in my opinion. What about you, Brooks? Style and structure.
Oh yeah, I agree with what you said. Like, I never feel bored in this movie. This movie it moves along at a good pace. I think, like, I think a part of that has to do with the really good soundtrack. Because even when it is slowed down, the soundtrack kind of gets you into it. It's just like, to me, it's just a fun movie. Like, and it's like a world, and you just like, you're with these characters, and it feels like you're kind of, it feels like hanging out with these like weird guys almost. And it's just like it is very Tarantino. Like, it does feel Tarantino, but it feels uniquely Tarantino in a way, I guess. Unless that's just me. I don't know.
No, it ain't just you. Maybe it's just me and you. What about you, Vernon? What do you think?
First off, I agree with you also, Robbie. I've been telling women for years, it's not about the length, it's about the pace. So just drill that into them. But I agree with you. What
nice
you said.
Follow up too.
I agree with what you said earlier, Fable, about it being his more mature. It's more mature than like anything else he's ever done, because Kill Bill doesn't feel this mature, but he has a way of like, excuse me, like we talked about this, Robbie, when we talked about Argento, of when what you're seeing, the camera's telling one story and the dialogue's telling another. And he does that. And in this movie, real good. The first time that we're in Ordell's apartment, all the conversations about guns, but the camera's just constantly showing you that De Niro and Fonda are going to fuck. It's all about putting her legs next to his face and being like, look, this is coming later. And then in Jackie's apartment, when Samuel L. Jackson's turning the light off, I just love that. That whole scene is just so fucking cool. But I agree with you, man. It's paced really, really well. It never ever gets boring, and it just like it builds to where it's supposed to go. But I think the thing that bugged me the first time I saw it, and maybe it still bugs me, I feel like there needs to be like another layer of complexity. You know what I mean? I guess that's what we're looking for with the nonlinear storytelling. But even like with the heist, like we know most of what's going to go on. And I think the first time I saw the movie, I was like, oh, okay, we just didn't know this one little like 5-minute chunk of what was going to happen. So I don't know, that maybe that leaves people feeling a little empty, but it leaves me feeling like there's something missing there in the structure. But overall, it's still super satisfying.
Hell yeah. And Eric, to point out what you were talking about, Elmore Leonard says, this isn't the best adaptation of my book to film. This is my book on film. Like 100%, even with the changes. So you can make changes and still honor the spirit of something, right? What about you, Jelani? What do you think about the style and structure?
Yeah, it is the pace of this film. It's very laid back. It tells a very good story. You guys have made great points about it. It's I like the part where he's like, when did you want to quit being a bail bondsman? He says Thursday. And it goes right back to the scene where he meets Jackie Brown the first time. He's like, yeah, I want to quit this life. This is not it. It's so beautiful. It's little things. Like, I know we're getting to music, but the music does transitions that are very good in this movie. And it moves it along the way it's cut. Everything about it is just, it's so chill. It's just one of these really just kind of upbeat films that tell you a really good story. Like, it just tells me my story. It gets in there. You're intrigued. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. Like, every time I watch this, and I've seen this several times, I'm still like anxious during the scene where they're getting the bag. Where like the bag is being exchanged, not the first one, the actual run. I love that whole setup, everything about it. It's just one of those cleanest.
Dude, Jackie's so smart, right? She knows that Melanie's gonna have a bundle of money in her pocket. Like, she doesn't know that Lewis is gonna kill her, right? But that adds to her story, right? Where she's able to get away pretty much, as long as she gets out of the country. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though Michael Keaton fucking knows, and you can tell he's so goddamn pissed about it, but he's like,
he's mad. He knows. Yeah. He's like, his whole scene, his scene. Now I was gonna go back to him too. He overacts the crap out of that scene. Like, he's chewing scenery at the end section. I'm like, oh my god, this is.
I'll just take him and the guns. We're good.
Yeah.
Like, that's
his character though. Because you're talking about Michael Keaton, right? As Ray.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when he plays the character in Out of Sight, there's that bit where Jennifer Lopez's dad, because he shows up wearing a big shirt that says FBI, right?
Yeah.
He's like, you ever thought of wearing one that says undercover? And he just looks at him with this like look, and he's like, no, I haven't. And you could just tell that, like, I don't know, there's something so subtle about this. Subtle and supple.
But
there's something very subtle about Michael Keaton.
That's Michael Keaton, though, man. That's him. And, when he's Batman, he does the same thing. Like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Or when he's Beetlejuice,
he's over the top.
Yeah, that's in him, man. It's just here it had to come out and just that.
Think about this. This motherfucker right now is playing Beetlejuice again. That's gonna be fucking it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be crazy.
Like, let it go, man. Let it go.
What about you, Joe? What do you think about the style and structure?
I mean, I think it's great here. Kind of building on what was saying earlier. I think it's nice that we have this Tarantino movie that isn't an over stylized Tarantino movie, if for anything else, just to have some more variety in the catalog. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe like Wes Anderson's like Rushmore. Like, the Wes Andersonisms are there, but it's a lot more grounded and doesn't. Yeah. And it's like, it's crazy when you think about Rushmore and then like Grand Budapest Hotel or something like that, like where it's like way crazy. So like that. So I'd say this
what you're saying there. That's a really good comparison, man.
Thank you. So it's like that. And then all the little subtle things throughout the movie. Like that, a bunch of people here already named some of those really subtle touches. I'll also add with like Max Cherry. Early in the movie, Sam Jackson's just like, where do I ash this? And he's like, use the mug. And then later in the movie, there's an ashtray on the desk. And And then Sam Jackson calls him out for not washing his hands after coming out of the bathroom. He washes his hands later before coming out of the bathroom in another scene. Like those little things like that too.
There's another bit where Jackie Brown asks if she can smoke when she's getting interrogated. When she's not cooperating, they say hell no. And then later, when she is, they're like, "Can I smoke?" She's like, absolutely.
Yeah, no, all that stuff. It's just phenomenal. It's so well, and again, it's for being a longer movie, it's very well paced, and it really does ramp up, even though it's not ramping up to like a typical Hollywood blowout kind of ending. The emotional beats are still ramping up, the anxiety is still ramping up, and even though you're probably guessing the movie's called Jackie Brown, she's probably going to make it out okay. You're still there for the journey. You're still there to see how everything goes, and even though it does play out in a way where you could be like, well, yeah, I mean, what else was really going to happen? It all works really well because you're so engrossed by all the characters, how they're interacting, what their plans are, that it all just works.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Fable? Style and structure.
Yeah, I mean, I can't add much. You guys are right. This is more laid back. This is more chill. It's more subdued. It's more, it invites you in, sets you up a little bit, stuff like that. For me, this is a movie person's movie, right? If you're just the guy who wants to go to movies and watch, airplanes blow up, shit like this is going to slow you up. And you're going to be like, I like Pulp Fiction better. But if you're into flicks, man, this is the one. This is the one. I like even how subdued it is in the way it's shot. I mean, it looks like like if they're almost 70s, early 80s, how subdued it is with some of its shots, but it still has some style to it because like when this guy was going to kill Chris Tucker, he drives off and goes right around the block. And he kills him in the other block. And that shot is so awesome. It's so brilliant. The way that happens, like, oh shit, he was just like right there. He didn't go anywhere. He killed this dude. And the way he was done was just perfect. And there's a couple of things like that, like when Jackie's late for work in the beginning, that title sequence. And you see her running through the airport and you see the plane and she's running in unison with the plane, parking and shit. There's stuff like that. There's a lot of that in there too, which doesn't make it completely just static and boring. You know what I mean? So, and like you guys said, also the music has a lot to do with driving this film forward. There's a lot of, especially with Max Cherry, right? The music is so integral to him. Style structure is phenomenal.
Hell yeah. Well, let's get into the music, right? And one of my favorite bits is when she plays the Delphonics. He goes and buys the tape, right? It was nice seeing a Sam Goody in a mall.
Yeah.
I like all the mall
and
stuff.
cassette tapes.
Yeah, cassette tapes. And I love that moment where Ordell gets in the car and he goes, I didn't know you liked the Delphonics. It's because it's such a like tension-filled scene. And he's like, yep, they're pretty good. Right? Like, that's great. Lots of great music in here. I think Tarantino does music very well in his films, especially these 90s films. I'm just going to say, Across 110th Street, Bobby Womack, hot damn. I mean, come on. That shit's amazing. Plus, when Jackie's in prison, they're playing a song from a prison, one of those, those chicks in prison movies they used to do back in the 70s. She was in one. I can't remember the name, but she sang one of the songs in it. They're playing that song. So,
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it's perfect. It fits perfect
That's
too,
cool.
like, lyrically with the moment.
Absolutely. Brooks, what do you think about the music in the film?
That was great. Like I love these funky tunes in this movie. It's like it feels kind of like a classier blaxploitation soundtrack, like if like a old school blaxploitation director could have gotten like the actual big name artist he would have wanted for his movie. Like, so you get
that's
like
funny
that.
to say because like half of the movie are from
That's true.
blaxploitation films or something.
They are. Yeah.
He's just using them in a different way, right? Where it makes it feel more
classy,
prestigious, almost in a way.
Well, the music has aged. You know, it's prestigious music, so of course,
yeah, that's true. And
it's
that's
a little
yeah,
different.
yeah, 100%. Like when
Yeah,
she's
it's
like
like-
running through the when she's running through the mall and you get that dun dun dun, dun. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like the suspense theme repurposed from another movie and shit like that. So
Mm.
hell yeah. But you like
and
the
it
movie.
stands out while also blending in perfectly with the movie.
Absolutely. And it is that tone. I think Tarantino's right when he's like, it's not a blaxploitation film, but it does have that tone,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I really do like that. Verna, what do you think about the music?
It's so good, man. The one moment that you mentioned where it's Max Cherry riding with Ordell and the Delphonics comes on. I love that moment because it's like the music's great, it's chill, it's beautiful, but then there's all this tension underneath it where it's like Max Cherry is saying, "Oh, does he realize that I'm falling in love with Jackie Brown? That she introduced me to this?" And then the other bit that I just fucking love is when the song's called Tennessee Stud by Doc Watson. It's like there's really like, like kind of not corny, but kind of corny, corny in a good way, over the top, not something you would think of some black gangster sitting and listening to. And then you find out when he turns the car off, that's him listening to it.
Yeah.
And I just love that moment. But yeah, the music, dude, it's so good. It's just the best. The best.
For all of us pretentious movie reviewers, Tarantino's use of diegetic music is superb. All right. What about you, Jelani? What do you think about the music?
Yeah, man. Ian the Balls put Johnny Cash in it. It's just, it's so clean. It's just, oh my goodness. This soundtrack is beautiful. The music that's playing when Jackie's walking out of jail. As I was going back to, I love that. I don't know. It's just like whimsy for Max Cherry to see her for the first time. That music's playing, and it's just it's perfectly timed. Every musical set, every soundtrack in here is purposeful. It makes a lot of sense that the music is there. It's not just Suicide Squad. You're just putting music in. It's just, hey, you like this, don't you? Remember this song? We play this while you're taking a bath. It's dope stuff. And you don't get that in this movie. It's just very straightforward. All the songs make sense. Across 110th Street is a classic.
Mhm.
That is Bobby
Dude,
Womack's
and she's
finest.
like mouthing
She's
along with it at the end too. Like,
yeah,
oh, so good. And then just that opening shot, right? So the opening shot where she's like, that's the graduate, right? They're like when she's on the like the little walkway or whatever.
Walkway.
Not a walkway, but the moving walkway. I don't know what the fuck they call them, but I've been on one of those one time. Is that MegaCon? I felt like I was like walking at like 500 miles per fucking hour, dude. I was like, I'm the Flash, dude.
Yeah.
What about you, Joe? What do you think about the music in the film?
Oh, I mean, it's phenomenal. Building off what Brooks was setting up here. Tarantino does this in other movies, but this is one of the better examples, I think, of the music being great and standing out for being great while perfectly blending in. And he does a good job at having enough of the characters reference the music throughout. It's like just enough to kind of like intertwine it all, make it all feel organic. It never feels forced. It never feels over the top like the music in this, which it does in other Tarantino films. And as Jelani was just saying, like it's kind of like I do love me some James Gunn, but holy shit, it's just like what kind of excuse can I come up with to put all the songs I like in this movie? I know. Here's some bullshit on why, Chris Pratt just so happens to have my favorite songs with him all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just glad that he discovered when he got his like first Zune or whatever, he got he discovered Space Hog because that's some good shit right there. What about you, Fable? What do you think about the music? You already said a little bit about it, but elaborate a little bit more.
Not much to add to that. Music's great. Music's perfect. Classic stuff. 110th Street, great song, like you guys say. Even though they're in Compton, California, not in Harlem. But special shout out to Street Life, man. The Crusaders, I believe, is the band that played that. Street Life is such a great song.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
And it's almost like when that kicks in the movie, it's like she's on it. Like, you know what I mean? She's who, you know, her character is fully out now.
Mhm.
She ain't the little pretend little, you know, stewardess girl anymore. So love it.
What I love about it is it's one of those movies where you watch it and you immediately are like, for the next week, I got to listen to the soundtrack, right? Like I like when movies are like that. Like Jackie Brown is one of them. High Fidelity is one of those movies to me.
Suicide Squad. Oh.
Not Suicide Squad, but Guardians does have that vibe.
Hell yeah.
Guardians has that vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
And then even
we just saw a movie like that, man. With
Angus
soundtrack.
I don't know if anybody remembers the movie Angus from the early to mid 90s, but
Green
that
Day?
movie's got a really good. Yeah, it's got that. Yeah, JAR, dude.
Yeah.
That's a great soundtrack, bro.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
just
way
saying,
into Green Day at that era.
Oh, Casino. We just saw Casino. Casino's
Oh
like,
yeah,
Casino's got a good
Scorsese,
soundtrack.
yeah. I was watching a Charlie Rose interview Tarantino did during this time, and Charlie asked him, "What are some of the directors that you could meet that could teach you something about film?" And he goes immediately, Steven Spielberg. I was like, all right. Then he goes, maybe Martin Scorsese, but it's different. It's like the way Scorsese would view Fellini, I view him. And then he couldn't think of any more, bruh. And I'm just like, you are kind of an asshat at this point in your career. Tarantino. All right. So the movie, though, has a theme. Very complex themes, very interesting things. But what we like to do here is take our personal application from this movie and highlight it when we discuss the theme. So, Brooks, what is the theme of this movie to you? What's Jackie Brown speaking to you?
I think it's a movie about, like, you know, like a lot of times, like, you know, a movie's about a character taking a risk and, like, you know, and putting in danger. I think this movie's about, like, sometimes you need to take the risk, you know, and that's a lot tied into, especially Max Cherry's story. Like, he's just like, he just doesn't feel anything anymore, you know, because, you know, life is, even like his life, which would be considered exciting to most, just seems mundane to him. Like, you know, he feels like he's going through the motions, you know, he doesn't enjoy the job anymore. And then, like, Jackie Brown's like, you know, here's an opportunity, like, you know, there's a little bit of risk, but if you pull it off, you know, you're free. He's like, why not take the risk? You know, sometimes some risks are, I guess it's the main thing is, like, some risks are worth taking.
Yeah. 100. And it's actually kind of relieving to get that from a crime movie sometimes.
Something crime does
like,
pay.
Yeah, usually it's like Bonnie and Clyde, motherfucker. Sonny fucking Corleone. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fucking dead. It's a hail of bullets. What about you, Verna? What's this movie speaking to you?
I had this, like, tripping all day trying to figure out, like, if I'm crazy and hoping that nobody would take this when we were talking about Max Cherry. I think there's this whole thing going on where there's, like, this gender role thing with Max Cherry and Jackie Brown, where it's like she stays the same kind of throughout the whole movie. Maybe she has an arc, but it's way more subtle than Max Cherry, where the whole time I'm watching the movie this time, I'm like, he is, like, kind of feminized in a way, or at least the way that we would view it. Like, and I'm really thinking about the way that she gets him into the Delphonics. And, like, at least from the way from just me viewing the world and the way I see things, women tend to take on a piece of the man's identity much more often than vice versa. Like, when you get a new relationship, all of a sudden that girl is into the type of music that guy is into. So to me, I'm like, well, that's interesting what they're doing. They're, like, kind of feminizing him. There's just something about the way that he acts that's kind of slightly feminine. She puts the suit on by the end. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that adds to that. And then at the end, she kisses him, and he's fucking got lipstick on his lips as he walks away. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a genius. I'm like, I followed this correctly. This is exactly what
that's definitely a point of it, because those roles are reversed. Usually it would be the dude who's responsible for the heist, who has a woman who's into him, who he can kind of manipulate into acting in her favor or in his favor. But in this one, it's Jackie, even so much to the point that Jackie straight up at the end says, I wasn't using you, Max. Right. Yeah.
You're my partner.
And it's even if you, a lot of times it would be in a role where you've got the white character is going to spend some time with the black character, and they're going to rub off on each other, but the white person's going to change the black person more in the end. When really Jackie's the one that changes him, that gets him into a little bit of the life of crime, gets his feet dirty a little bit. So yeah, really, really interesting and this is something, like I said, I never would have thought about movies in this way before meeting you guys. You know what I mean?
Robbie,
So
right?
I appreciate that for
Damn you,
opening up my mind to film.
Well, Brooks and Jelani can attest. These are the conversations we've been having for decades, right? Even before the YouTube.
Yep.
So this is what we do. We're like, hey man, what do you?
First time I ever talked so much about music ever.
But this is how we do, man. We're like, dude, let's talk about it. Surf Ninjas. What did that movie mean? Fuck. By the way, Ernie Reyes Jr. is going to be at the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo, everybody.
Yeah.
So I got my Surf Ninjas DVD ready. Speaking of Surf Ninjas DVDs, Joe Corralo's got like all of them. He's selling them on Amazon right now for $35.99, 5 easy payments. Joe, what do you think? What's this movie speaking to you as a writer and editor yourself?
You skipped Jelani.
Fuck,
did.
we'll get back to you, Jelani. I'm sorry.
What? He can go. It's okay.
Jelani, go first. I'm sorry.
Anyway, Joe, please go ahead. I'll go next.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think Verna really got it, but also there's this whole theme about it's a little complex. It's time, age, retirement, like all kind of intertwined with like time being the larger umbrella, because you've got all of our major players here, Jackie Brown, Odell, Max Cherry are all done. They are done with their lives. They are over this, and they are looking for their retirement. They're getting out of their business no matter what. And those are really the three major players who are pushing it. And you could even say the same thing with Robert De Niro's character, where he's out of jail. And he's like, I'm done. It's Ordell that really drags him reluctantly back into helping him out with some crime. But the goal is, I'm only doing this because we're both done after this. Like, I just need you to help me so that way we're all done. Everyone's goal throughout this is to just be done. And like retirement at any cost, like it's worth it. And meanwhile, you have that with sort of the Melanie character, who is perfectly fine with the status quo and really starts freaking out more when things are like changing. Like, she's perfectly content laying around smoking weed. Like she gets more erratic and crazy as Ordell and other factors start getting closer to their end, because she's sort of this symbolically, she's like the status quo, and it's like, hey, look, like, why are we doing all this? I thought we were having a good time. And there's interesting things with that being played through the movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jelani, I'm so sorry. I've been having too many drinks during my Dynamite show these last couple weeks. All right, but I'm just saying, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to exclude you.
Coming out of your mouth. No, I'm kidding. I don't care.
What about you, Jelani? What's this movie speaking to you?
Well, I mean, to piggyback off of Joe, because that's kind of what I was gonna say, but you said it a lot better. It's about like second chances, like trying to get a second chance. Yeah. Trying to, because I was going to refer to Jackie. Jackie was like, if I get this probation charge, or if I go to jail for a year and a day and I lose this job, this is all I got. She's like, and I can't do this again. I don't want to start over. I do want a second chance. I want my life to start off the way I want it to happen. And she makes this plan happen because, she was getting money and giving it to Ordell. I don't know how they met. She apparently wasn't a former girlfriend of his. She's just an acquaintance that flew, and he needed someone to like get his money, and it just turned into that. And she had already, they mentioned before that Jackie was married before, and like took a charge for him, or something happened where that relationship soured. So she lost her job at Delta and had to get on the Cabo airline, and she didn't want to reinvent herself again. And I actually, that parallels some of my life in the way it goes. You don't want to start over again. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of pain. It's a lot of things. And if there's something that you can take, and this goes back to what Brooks was saying, which was about, I think it was Brooks that said it was about risk and getting the risk involved to make yourself like, I guess, to reinvent yourself, because you can reinvent yourself. It is about second chances. As long as you're alive, you can keep going and do whatever you need to do. And that's definitely what I get. It's about new beginnings, second chances, and actually, and what Rick said, taking risk, and going out there and doing it. It's all there. It's all there. This movie is fantastic for telling you that.
Hell yeah! What about you, Fable? What are you taking from this movie?
I think this movie is a lot about underestimation or underestimating people. You know, when we judge people, we judge people against our own experiences, even though that's, you know, how you shouldn't really judge somebody, but that's how we do it. And a lot of these people, they're not who they seem. Almost all of them aren't who they seem. I mean, this guy's a loudmouth, whatever, drug dealer, but he's actually kind of an idiot. You know, his partner, his partner looks like a greaseball, but he's actually really loyal. You know, Jackie is just like some fuck up steward attendant that's in her mid-40s, but she's actually smarter than everybody. And this goes on through the whole movie. Everybody's like this. Michael Keaton plays the good cop in the beginning and becomes the real asshole cop. Really, he's the one that's the jerk off. Everybody in this movie has that. But the person that gets underestimated the most is Jackie Brown. And Jackie Brown comes out on top from everybody. And one thing I love about Jackie Brown in this movie is how she changes. You know, she's a messed up stewardess in the beginning. She's all raggedy in jail, all of a sudden she gets her hair done. Oh, now she's sporting this red dress. Now she got the power suit and she got the millions. You know what I mean? She evolves. Her costume changes through this film. So yeah, I would say it's a movie about underestimating people.
Yeah, I think all of y'all are right there on the money, right? Like, it's the inversion of the typical tropes, especially of 70s exploitation movies, like Verno was talking about, right? It's about taking that risk and second chances. It's about age, right? It's about everything that you guys have said tonight. And I just want to tie it all together and say this. The crazy thing about this movie is this, to me. This is what this is speaking to me. And now we are now watching the movie in our fucking 40s. You know what I'm saying? Or late 30s. I don't know everybody's exact age on this panel, but I think most of us are around the same age, right? And I'm watching it and I'm like, wow, this movie, no wonder I didn't like it back in the 90s. I didn't understand it yet because I was in my fucking 20s. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm in my 40s, and what it's about to me is that feeling like life is over at middle age. But it's not. It's not, because you still got what it takes. You can still make the right decisions. You still got a chance. And I know a lot of people talk about Quentin Tarantino movies of those 90s. Reservoir Dogs revitalized the career of Harvey Keitel. Pulp Fiction revitalized the career of John Travolta. This one was attempting to do the same thing with Pam Grier and Robert Forster. But I think in reality, Tarantino wasn't trying to do that in this movie, even if he was in those other movies, and I don't think he was. But in this movie in particular, he's casting the right people for those roles. And it's giving me the sense of this. It's never too late to change the game. But like Brooks said, you got to take the risk. And when you get to the end of this movie, Jackie took the risk, and she's going off to a new life. And even though he was swept out, the rug was swept out from under his feet, right? Robert Forster, Max Cherry, doesn't take the risk. And he stays. And it's sad and tragic at the end because they don't hook up romantically, officially, fully, because he won't take the chance. He still can't do it. So sometimes when you're in your later years, or what you perceive as your later years, but it's not, you're so wise at this point in your life, right? You know way more. Jackie was able to do what she did because she knew how all these motherfuckers would act. She knew this game. We know the game too. And if the game you're playing right now is something you're not happy with, make the fucking change. Be a Jackie Brown. Ultimately, don't be a Max Cherry, if that makes sense. That's what I take from the movie. All right, time to rate the film out of 5 possible you digs. You out there in the chat, let us know what you think about Jackie Brown. Is it truly the underappreciated gem in Tarantino's filmography, or is it bullshit? Brooks, kick us off. Out of 5 you digs, what do you give Jackie Brown?
I'd give this one a 5. I really love this movie. Like it's in my top 3 Tarantino movies, and like it's just like I've said this like more than once already, but it's just so fun watching this movie. It's just a very enjoyable movie for me personally, and like I'd be willing to throw this one on anytime. I think.
Hell yeah, man! That's why you own it, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Verno? What do you give this movie?
Right there with you, brother. I'm gonna give it a 5 as well, man. I don't know where I would rank it among my Tarantino movies because they're so, like you said, Robbie, they're so interchangeable, man. It's like I could sit and make a very strong argument for almost any one of them, excluding a couple, Hateful Eight and the Grindhouse one, which I've never fucking even seen for some reason. But I love this movie, dude. It's an easy 5 for me across the board. It's so entertaining and, like I said, one of the best soundtracks ever of all time.
Hell yeah. What about you, Jelani? What do you think?
I'm watching it right now. 5. 5. It's so good. Like I've liked it. It's randomly on YouTube. I can't believe it's on YouTube. I'm at the scene where she's like in the bathrobe, and she's like gonna play the music for him. I absolutely love that scene too. It's just something about it. I'm like, Max should have taken that chance. That's another thing. I don't know if I told you things, but I love stories. I have no clue why. I love them. This movie has like the best scene when he kisses her, or when she kisses him. And I'd have just been like, yeah, I'm done. That phone rang. I've been like, forget it. Winston can take care of the rest of these. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to Spain and eat Spanish food. I don't know. I'm gonna do stuff. I'm gonna live the rest of this out.
I thought her name was Jackie.
So what?
I said I thought her name was Jackie. You said something about Spanish food.
Oh my God. Oh, but yes, it's such a clean film though. You can just pop it in, watch it at any time, find it. It's not as quotable. I will say that Pulp Fiction is the most quotable to me. But Tarantino knows what the hell he's doing. I wish he hadn't cut himself off and said I only make 10 movies. That's a lot of work. You just gotta get out there and make more movies and be awesome until you're like 90. That's what he should be doing. Get out here like Scorsese and keep making stuff, except The Irishman, because I refuse to watch that 4 hours.
That's a great movie. Irishman's great, man.
Oh, it's great.
Don't give a crap.
Irishman's great, bro. Irishman's great. What about you, Joe? What do you think? Out of 5 you digs, what do you give Jackie Brown?
I gotta give it a 5. Like, there's no. How could you not? It's
right.
like, yeah, there's no notes. There's no like, oh, I really wish this would have happened instead. There's no like, oh, what would you? I don't know. Like, this wasn't cast right. There's none of that. But and I'll also say that the 10 movie limit that Tarantino put on himself, it is stupid. Because you know what Kubrick's 11th movie was? The Shining.
Yeah.
It falls apart.
Even if, but no, it's
his whole career's over at that point.
Oh yeah, right. But no, it's just crazy. And Full Metal Jacket's after that. I mean, it's while it's not my favorite Kubrick movie, it's easily has some of the most memorable moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first half's incredible,
Fucking
and then it
Here-
keeps going.
Tarantino's gonna have some kind of like a loophole, right? Because he already has the whole thing where he's like, "Death Proof don't count." Now and then eventually he'll be like, "Oh, Kill Bill's one movie, so I got
Yeah.
one more."
He should have said
right?
that. Yeah. They should have put that anywhere.
All right, Fable. What
Yeah.
about you, man? What do you think? Kill Bill. I mean, fuck. Jackie Brown. What do you rate it?
Yeah, we're gonna go 5 on this one as well, man. Definitely. There's not really much you can ding it for. You really can't. I mean, it's solid, completely solid. Even the plot is solid. Like this
Yeah.
you know,
It has no
intertwining
holes.
relationships and how you know this one and what was the girl's name that he was with? Sharonda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This place is what he said. This place is filthy or some shit like that.
How can you live like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this movie's solid, man. There's writing, acting, editing, music, blah blah blah, the whole way down. This is Tarantino's tightest film, really, in a lot of ways, man. Like I said, it's his most mature too. So, you know, if you're a big Tarantino, you like his over the top shit. I mean, you get some of that with Robert De Niro shooting Bridget Fonda in the parking lot. That's some Tarantino shit right there. But for the most part, it's subdued, and I like it like that. It's funny. I love it for it.
I'm really legitimately surprised tonight, y'all, about the ratings. I thought that they would be high, but I thought that there would be like varying levels. I love this movie. I think it's underappreciated as far as Tarantino's filmography goes. Brilliant performances from all involved, filled with style, perfect structure, a great pace, a 2.5-hour movie that does not feel long. I don't think Gladiator feels long. It feels like hours compared to this one. This movie goes right through. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Terrifier 2 feels like a day and a half compared to Jackie Brown.
Because you're not skipping that one scene. You just got to skip that one scene with the machine gun.
What, the fucking musical scene?
Yeah, you just got to skip that bit.
Fuck all that movie, man. I don't give a shit. Fuck both of them. This movie makes the first one feel like fucking an hour and a day and a half, man. Like, the first Terrifier movie doesn't understand pacing. That's a dude who needs an editor, you know, like whatever. 5 you digs. 5 you digs. Great score, perfect messages, like just so layered. It is truly the Rum Punch of the party. That doesn't make any sense. So a 5 you digs from everybody on the panel for a PCP average of 5, meaning it's a perfect movie. What the fuck? Why are you not liking this movie as much as we are? So thank you all for joining us for the Jackie Brown movie review. I know that Bueller had a surprise Coffee and Comics live tonight at the exact same time. And so I appreciate those of you that were here. But if not, you're watching us on the replay. Thank you for watching Bueller and Bob. I'm excited to go check that out as soon as we wrap up here. What's going up here, PCP? Well, we're about to hit some big stuff, right? We're about to hit March Madness. But before March Madness, you can catch me Wednesday night. I'm having a conversation with Tony Fleece.
Wow.
He's got a new book coming out called Feral. Local Man's got a one-shot coming up. He's got another book coming out called Uncanny Valley. So it's exciting to hang out for a little bit with Tony Fleece yet again. Then catch us on Thursday night for the best comics of the month, February. Not this one. This says January. But we're doing the February best comics of the month stream on Thursday night. And right after that, you can catch me over on Blood Splatter Chatter. We're talking about the Masters of Horror episode Jennifer, directed by Dario Argento. But March Madness is here, y'all. March Madness kicks off Saturday night over at Dylan's Horror Show with The Shining. I will be there for that show. Next week here on PCP Movie Night, we're kicking off our portion of March Madness with The Invisible Man. Should be Nick Comic Culture's first appearance on a PCP Movie Night. Then the following Thursday, Verno's got Possession over at Blood Splatter Chatter, and Manny is taking us all to reality with his lineup for March Madness. He's going to be talking about the duality of good and evil on film, silent to modern to elevated.
Nice. Okay.
So that's awesome. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. Nice. What about you, Brooks? Thank you for being here. Any final thoughts? What you got coming up you want to talk about?
Well, me and Delaney, we do the Go Figure Reviews thing, and we did a pretty fancy fancy one here lately. An extremely fancy Skeletor and Panther combo, which was like fun as hell. Just like, this is a figure like I would never have.
It's so baller.
But
And the
like
fact
he's so
that, like,
he's
you
so
got
cool.
it.
So cool. It's like,
Oh,
yeah.
I saw
Looks
that
cool.
figure. We were oogling over that figure.
It's just like he's lifting up the trunk. It's like the Pulp Fiction briefcase.
Yeah, no shit. Like
Yeah.
we're all like basked with this golden glow. People keep coming over. What are you looking at? Look at the Skeletor figure. Everybody goes, "What are you talking about?" Whoa! Like it's the most badass figure I've ever seen. Not even kidding.
Yeah,
Hell
but
yeah.
I guess I'll just get back to my greatest ambition, getting high and watching TV.
Bruh.
Fuck yeah, dude. All right,
that
Verno.
works.
Love you, brother. Thank you for being here. I already plugged your next two
You
shows,
did.
so why don't you just tell us a little bit?
Well, shit. Since you did that, can I show you guys something weird that's been on my mind way too much? I took this picture. Can you blow me up, man? I'm gonna try and do this. First of all, do we all know whose mouth this is?
That's Batman.
Michael Keaton. Yeah.
Why the
That's Batman.
fuck? Why does Michael
Yeah.
Keaton's mouth look like the fucking bat symbol so much? Like,
Oh,
what
God,
the fuck? Like, what the
They saw
fuck?
me casting. They saw me casting. They were like,
Are you
yeah,
kidding
that's
me, dude?
Batman.
That is the weirdest shit. I was positive for a while. I was like, what the fuck? But anyway, before I do that show, or before you guys are able to view that show on Thursday, I'm talking to Argento with Robbie. I'm revisiting an Eli Roth film that I talked about with Robbie earlier this year. We're doing Thanksgiving. Now that it's dropped on Netflix, it's streaming. I'm getting a full panel together because the last time I had just walked out of the theater and Robbie and I talked about it. So now I've had a chance to let that digest, watch it a couple more times, and get a full panel's thoughts on the flick. So that's Wednesday night at 8 Central Standard Time.
Hell yeah, everybody check that out. What about you, Jelani? What's up?
Well, yeah, I mean, Rick said it all. I mean, we do Go Figure reviews. We also did the Mutton Junkyard, but the Skeletor, yeah, the Junkyard and Mud is up. I put that up last week. Check it out. It's surprising. It's a boy and his dog. And also the Skeletor, which, yeah, it's the cleanest figure I've ever touched. Like, it's the most expensive.
I get the theme. A boy and his dog, a
Mhm.
boy and his cat.
And a boy and his cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that Panther is not, I mean, if we just watch the video, because it makes me cry. Every time I like think of that, I remember that I touched these figures. They're so, they're like the chef's kiss. Like if they were 6 or 7 inches of figure, I'd have to sell things to get to it. I have to get to it. It's that insane, like kidneys and livers and stuff. It would be that deep. But yeah, check us out. Go Figure Reviews. We're at Go Figure Reviews. And we lost a subscriber, but we're gonna get one back. So subscribe.
That was me. I'm sorry, bro. Joe, thank you for being here. What you got coming up?
No problem. Well, I'm going to be at Emerald City Comic Con this week. So if anyone's out there for that, I'll be at the show mostly Thursday through Saturday, maybe just Sunday morning before I head out. I'm doing a signing at the Mad Cave booth on Friday from 3:30 to 4:15, and that's booth 2707. Beyond that, I have King Arthur and the Knights of Justice that'll be out through Maverick, the Mad Cave imprint, April 24th. You can pre-order it right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Everybody get a hold of that right now. Fable, thank you so much for being here. What you got coming up, bro? Second best pop culture related show on YouTube.
Come watch the second best pop culture thingy this Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Join me, Nick, Comic Culture, Dr. Doom's Fan Club, Brother Joe, and our special guest, Gary B., the casual comic guy, who just released a book on Amazon called Need. So I can't wait to hang out with him and talk about the latest in pop culture news. And the last thing I got to say is my ass may be dumb, but I ain't no dumbass. Thanks.
That's great. All right, y'all. Get hyped. March Madness is finally here. But before that, join me over at Blood Splatter Chatter for Jennifer, Dario Argento. That was a great conversation, right? You don't want to miss that. That's super cool.
Oh, yeah.
Right before that, Best Comics of the Month stream. Wednesday night, Lots of other shows going on here in the PCP Army Bad Batch Network. But join me for the conversation with Tony Fleece. That's going to be great. But March Madness, y'all. Check it out. Dylan's Horror Show, Saturday night, The Shining. Next Monday, here, PCP Movie Night, The Invisible Man. The original. The one that Verno doesn't like. But the one that I like. Possession over at Verno's channel. And then we got The Duality of Good and Evil on film over at Nerdtastic News. We love you. Station, thank you so much for watching the video. And my final thoughts will be, when you absolutely, most positively must kill every motherfucker in the room, except no substitutes. PCP, bitches. Let's do it. All you had to do is punch her in the mouth.